Good evening and welcome to SoCal Prep Report. I'm your host, Randy Rosenblum. I'll be joined by Tarek Fatal of the LA Daily News in a moment, but I want to preview the show because we're going to have a very intriguing program for you. A little later, we're going to talk with Keith Wilkinson, who's the head basketball coach at J. Sarah. They got knocked out of the state regional tournament tonight by Damien, but he has a bigger story to tell because after his career, he played at Capo Valley, and after USC, he played professionally in Ukraine. So we're going to talk about news and sports together, and we all know what's going on in Ukraine. And the other story that I thought was great this week was Grant High School winning a city championship for the first time. And we're going to have Tariq Abdul-Samia on, their head coach in his fifth year. He's standing in the wings. But before we get to Tariq, we've got to bring Tarek on. Tarek, good evening.
How we doing, Randy? I'm fresh off of some state playoffs myself, rushed over to talk with you, and let's recap what happened in a great week of high school sports.
Yeah, I know you saw Notre Dame Sherman Oaks win tonight against a very good basketball team. Tell us a little bit about that game quickly.
Right, yeah, Ben Stoltzberg, 10 of 10 in the fourth quarter, and Notre Dame beat St. Anthony. He was 10 of 10 from the free throw line, excuse me. And Ben Stoltzberg lifted Notre Dame Sherman Oaks 66-60 over St. Anthony of Long Beach. They're going to go to the Division I semifinals and play Korean Lutheran. So the two teams that were in the Open that didn't do so hot, now they're going to face off in the Division I state playoffs.
Well, Stoltzberg has been a great foul shooter. He knocked down a lot of foul shots in the big win earlier at Harvard Westlake during the regular season. But let's get to the championship games that we saw last week. Corona Centennial over Harvard Westlake. They beat them 68-48. The Huskies of Centennial, 27-game winning streak, longest in school history. They are a terrific team.
Yeah, that game was a little tough to watch, if I'm being honest. Cameron Thrower picked up his third foul early in the second quarter, and Harvard Westlake did not convert a basket that whole second frame, and Corona Centennial went on, I believe, a 17 or 19-2 run or something like that to end the half and had a huge lead at halftime. Cameron Thrower had to sit out because of foul trouble. So that was pretty much the game. And Harvard Westlake carved it down to 8 a couple times, 9 a couple times, but never really got within shooting distance. And Corona Centennial, the number one seed, and we all kind of felt like they were going to win the game either way. It doesn't matter who the opponent was, but just to know Harvard Westlake was really down without their senior leader early in the game kind of put a damper on it. But nevertheless, Corona Centennial, a great team, ended up winning the Open Division Championship.
Second consecutive year. Congratulations to Josh Giles. They'll play on Saturday night against a team, Bishop Montgomery, they've already beat. They're going to play them in the regional semifinals. They'll be the heavy favorite there. They blew out Bishop Montgomery in the CIF playoffs already this season. Let's talk about Grant in the city section. Over Westchester, 53-48. We're going to talk to their head coach in a moment, but a crowning achievement for the Lancers, their first ever LA City section championship, but it comes in D1.
What a great local story it's been. It's a team that is just really, really always doing the right things. Tariq does such a good job getting those guys prepared. They always play with a passion. I had a chance to watch them against Sun Valley Poly earlier this year, and they just were dialed in. Jeremiah Wyndham's the guy that makes that click talk over there for the Grant Lancers. So a great accomplishment. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch them win the city championship. I was at a different game, but I know that was big for that program and Coach Tariq Abdul-Masih.
Fairfax has had a powerhouse for many, many years. They get a championship this season. Wasn't easy. King Drew stretched them a little bit. The Lions finally won it. Bay, their star player for Fairfax, had another big game, Tyler Bay. They end up winning at 76-64. The Lions really came on at the end of the year. They had some young players that really stepped up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're talking about a traditional program, and it's just another city title for Fairfax. King Drew did everything they could, well coached. Caleb LeCount, big scorer, but at the end of the day, it's a team game, and Fairfax was able to pull out the win and win another city title.
Etowah is undefeated in girls basketball, but they had to rally against Sierra Canyon. Juju Watkins got in foul trouble, actually fouled out late in the game when they were leading, and Etowah stormed to victory. Those Eagles are a great team.
Juju Watkins, I mean, when you're not playing with her, you are vulnerable, and that's what happened to Sierra Canyon. Juju Watkins is arguably the best player in the country, and she's only a junior. So she was leading Sierra Canyon, and then she fouled out. It's actually something she's been struggling with all year. I got a chance to watch her the other night in the regional playoffs, and I talked to her about that. That was a big realization for her to know, hey, fouls are a real part of this game, and she had to learn it the hard way. That was a lesson learned for her. She fouled out of that championship game. Etiwanda goes on to win it, and I don't think she'll ever foul out of a game again. I tell you right, that's what she told me. So we'll see how Juju Watkins responds, but congratulations to Stan DeLuce, a very good coach for the Etiwanda girls team, and they win their the Open Division title.
And before we talk Grant basketball, View Park and girls basketball, a huge win over a very good Camarillo team who has a young lady, Gabriela Jaquez, who's phenomenal. But there was another lady for Viewpoint that really stepped up.
That's right. Carly White had 37 points. She had 20 points in the third quarter. It was such a great atmosphere. Viewpoint girls have never been to a CIF final. And so they won their first CIF championship in program history, taking down a McDonald's All-American, Gabriela Jaquez, and Camarillo, the #1 seed in the division. It was an electric night. Carly White was fantastic, getting to the bucket, getting to the free throw line, hitting threes. It was kind of an introduction, if you will, right? Everything leading up to that was Gabriela Jaquez. How many points is she going to score? Can the team hold them? Yada, yada. And here comes Carly White, only a junior. So really, really great game and a great moment for a young athlete.
All right, it's time to bring on a celebrity. We don't have too many celebrities on the program, and we have one now in the Grant coach, Tariq Abdel Samia. Now, Tariq was on The Price is Right this morning. He was actually on the program, and now he's on our show on LA 36. You're not an easy guy to book nowadays, are you?
No, I guess not. That was filmed a couple of months ago, but yeah, it happened to air this morning.
And you didn't win any money, I heard, huh?
Nope, still broke.
But no. Let's be honest. You don't need money. You're a champion now at Grant. You knock off Westchester. Congratulations. Is that the greatest moment in Grant Lancer history? The school in Van Nuys getting their first boys basketball championship.
I mean, it compares to the '86 baseball championship with Rob Beck. But yeah, I think in sports history for Grant, it is a crowning achievement, especially being against Westchester, who.
Could you ever imagine playing Westchester in a championship game? Grant, Westchester? You don't normally think of Grant and Westchester in hoops.
I mean, we've played Westchester before, in the early 2000s when they had Trevor Ariza, but it was a different ball game, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's still surreal. I still haven't really processed all of it.
Come in and try to figure out why your names are pronounced differently because they're spelled the same.
We won't go into that, but I do have a question for you. And listen, if there's anyone that watched Lancer basketball this year, Jeremiah Wyndham really stood out. Were there moments where you tried to find ways not to bottle him up, Tariq, right? You got to find ways to let him score. I know he's a great defender. Talk about managing him and knowing that other opponents key in on him defensively.
I mean, you can't bottle up Jeremiah. A guy like Jeremiah has to be able to play freely, and we knew that coming in. We allow him to play. Obviously, there's things that we want him doing specifically offensively, but once he learned trust his teammates, it really opened everything up for him. And we had guys really step up in key moments, and that allowed Jeremiah to just be able to flow. So a guy like Jeremiah, you just let him play, and you know that he puts in all the work behind the scenes that he's gonna be successful.
Tariq, you played at Grant High School. You played for Howie Levine, who coached the club for over 3 decades, came so close a number of times to winning city championships. I know after the game concluded and you knocked off Westchester, there was a moment where you two embraced. Take us through that moment where you guys got together right after the end and you knew you had the championship, and how he had the realization that his school finally won.
The only person I wanted to find in the stands, if you watch the video, I run up into the stands. I couldn't find him, so I get back on the court, and then I look up and I see his hat kind of sneaking across the bleachers, and he was the first person I look for. I mean, our championship is not built on everything that he taught us. All our coaches are Grant alumni. They all played for Howie, so um, he is the foundation of this championship. No matter what success we have moving forward, it's always going to go back to that. I mean, the man taught a lot of us a lot of lessons, and I just hope to do the same.
How do you
When it comes
sustain
to
it?
going on
I'll take one more and then I'll turn it over to you, Tarek. How do you sustain excellence at Grant? You're going to lose Wyndham. Obviously, there's some momentum built in the program, but how do you sustain it now that you're a champion?
We start all over. I mean, we get back to basics. Last year ended on Tuesday, and all our returners are back doing their own individual off-season workouts, and we start from scratch. It's started on Wednesday. We keep building with the kids that are at our school. We find what they're good at, and we try to make sure that we highlight that. Some kids can shoot, some kids can play defense well, and it's on us to highlight that and put that into a team concept. But we just start all over. I mean, it's back to day one, and that's kind of we rebuild that foundation with this group, because this group is completely different no matter who's returning. So that's how we continue to sustain it. We just rebuild and let the chips fall where they may as we play the season.
I did want to ask this. After such a high of a city championship, I know coaches, programs, everyone talks in the city, you want to win a city championship. If you're in the Southern section, you always want to win a Southern section champion. These are like marquee, you dream of it kind of thing. But wait a minute, when you win those things, there's a state tournament now to play. So I'm actually curious the mentality you had and maybe tried to put onto your team, like, hey guys, what a great high, but there's more basketball to play. Was that challenging, or did you feel like there was a little bit of letting off the gas naturally after such a big accomplishment?
No, not with this group. The whole season we talked about opportunity. When we got the third seed in Division One, okay, it was an opportunity to compete for a city championship. When we won the first round game, okay, it was an opportunity to play another basketball game. And when we won the city championship, obviously we celebrated that night. We were happy on Saturday, but then Sunday the message was, okay, guys, we've accomplished this goal. We've reached the top of this mountain. Now we have an opportunity to play in another tournament, and that's all this group wanted. They all wanted just the opportunity to play, the opportunity to compete. And like I said, this team played with so much fun and joy, and whether we won or lost a game, the feeling was the same. We just enjoyed being out there, and ultimately, that's what made this team so much fun. Is they were excited for the opportunity, but they understood that it was just an opportunity, and it was on us to take advantage of it. How we would.
Well, you lost to a very good Rancho Verde team on Tuesday night to conclude your season, but again, you're champions. I want to know, I mean, what's the ring going to be like? What's the championship ring at Grant going to look like? Are you going to be the guy that designs it?
No, the seniors won it, so they get to design it. It's their championship. I don't know. They're the ones that played those games. They're the ones that did everything. So they're the ones that get to design it. It's their ring. So we're gonna let them make decisions on how they want it to look moving forward. I won't take no part in that.
Last ad. What's the one moment from this glorious year that you'll always think about?
It's a great question. So many of them. I mean, obviously hugging coach at the end of the championship game, but I think, to be honest with you, coming back from the state tournament, after we lost to Rancho Verde, we're all sitting on the back of the bus, and everybody's just, we're having casual conversation, and just enjoying being around each other. We just lost, and you wouldn't know it. And that doesn't mean that we weren't focused on the game, but we were just so embedded in each other and having fun and enjoying being around each other that we were having conversations about different things, and it was just a fun moment. We almost forgot that we lost the basketball game, because we were just so happy that we were together. And ultimately, that's what this team was. From the day that we lost to Aquinas in the state playoffs last year, that next Monday, this team has been all together, and they're best friends before practice. They pick each other up in practice. They're best friends after practice, and I'm just happy that they let me be a part of it.
Well, Coach, congratulations on the championship. Best of luck going forward and continued success at Grant and Van Nuys.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, that's Tariq, from one coach to another. A little bit earlier, Tarek, I had an opportunity to talk to Keith Wilkinson at J. Sarah. Again, he played some basketball in Ukraine, so these are some interesting times for him. So let's check in on that interview. Coach Keith Wilkinson joins us from J. Sarah High School, and he's had another terrific year there with his basketball team, the Lions. They're in the state regional tournament. But he's more than just a basketball coach. He was a terrific player at USC. And after his days at USC, 2009, 2010, he played professional basketball in Ukraine. So here's a situation. We're going to cross over and have news and sports as one. Keith, first and foremost, welcome to the show. And I know this has got to be some trying times for you. You're in the basketball tournament, but your mind's got to be on Ukraine just a bit, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things. First and foremost, thanks for having me. But it's one of those things where your heart is heavy. Mine especially, just knowing people and families that are from that area. And I was in a city called Kryvyi Rog, but being at Kyiv, being at Dnipro, traveling and playing the countryside, my heart is heavy for the Ukrainian nationals that play there, guys that I know, for people that I've met there. And it also just kind of gives me and our team great perspective of how blessed and how lucky we are. Our kids have dealt with a lot the last couple of years with COVID and the season last year being pushed to the spring, and we had a cancellation this year. But one thing that we have is our freedom. And that's something that we can't take for granted. And we're so blessed to play a game that we love. And we were lucky to, still be playing right now.
Coach, how did you find Ukraine as a professional basketball stomping ground? You don't think of Ukraine as a basketball territory at all.
It was funny. That's a great question. So when I got done playing at SC, the agency that I was working with at the time, they gave me a couple options, and they gave me Australia, they gave me Ukraine, and they gave me Spain. And when you're 22 years old and you look at those things, I think my answer now as a 34-year-old would have been a little different. Probably would have chosen Australia or Spain, but Ukraine was offering the most money. And so I went where the money was. And I had happened to know a couple guys that had played professionally there. You guys might remember the name Khalid El Amin. He was a point guard at UConn, national champion. And he was making around like $2 million a year out in Ukraine. Dijon Thompson, who was played at UCLA, was making like $1 million. I mean, making big time money. My contract was nowhere near those guys, but I figured, that was a great opportunity to go play basketball. There were some big names that had played there, Americans, and go play for a club and hopefully create a reputation that maybe one day I could earn one of those contracts as an American import over there.
As a basketball player and an American, how were you treated by the Ukrainian people?
It was awesome. First of all, when you talk about going to a foreign country, when you see upside down nines and pi signs and you're trying to figure out even just how to shop at the grocery store, it's crazy. Trying to learn Ukrainian, which is basically Russian, with a little bit of a twist to it. Like it is, you just in over your head. And as a 22-year-old who grew up in Orange County and went to USC an hour down the road, it was kind of one of those things where I think even my parents and I look back at it and we're like, wow, that was a journey. But the Ukrainian people were so nice. Obviously being out there, completely different culture, not knowing anything to what their culture is like, except for just reading about it on Google before you get out there. They're very welcoming. People in the community were very awesome. And my teammates were fantastic. Guys that just, even though there was a language barrier, the common language of basketball was really cool, and guys really had my back, which was great.
Last ad on this situation. We know the people are very strong in Ukraine, and you see these convoys of Russian troops coming into that country. How will they stand up to that? You know those people as well as anyone. You're a basketball coach. You know how to win big games. How do they win the biggest game of all, the game of life?
I wish I could answer that, like it's such a tough question. But the one thing I can just say is the toughness and resiliency of that country and those people. They're such hard workers. They really, 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 really stick together. They have a lot of pride for their country. And I think their toughness and their resiliency, you see it every day, in small businesses around the area. You see it every day when I was out there playing. And I think their fortitude, their resiliency, their toughness as individuals, but not only that, but collectively coming together for their country. Nothing that we can do except for just pray and think about those guys and hope that everything gets resolved as soon as possible. But they're just very tough. They remind me of like a really like Midwest, like Pittsburgh, West Virginia, just a really tough nosed community, blue collar, hard workers,
Let's bring it back to basketball. Your team had a great win in the state tournament at Fairfax. I know you're dealing with some issues health-wise with your squad. Robert Diaz had 37 points in the win over the Fairfax Lions. A thought on winning such a big game during a difficult situation for you personally, thinking about Ukraine and your team's health. That had to be a great win and an emotional win.
It was, we lost a heartbreaker. To have the opportunity to have a CIF Southern Section Championship on your home floor was unique this year. And it was a huge bummer. Our starting guard, EJ Bryson, tore his ACL in the third quarter of the St. John Bosco game. And he's a really big piece of our team. He's our best defender. He's a great creator. And so it really hurt not having him. And then to lose that game, your team can do two things. They can just hang it up and say they're done, or they can really fight, come out and try to make another run at it. And we've been dealing with a bug. I'm sick. Half our team is sick. We have one of our guys who started in the CIF Southern Section game didn't even suit up, Sebastian Rancic, our 6'9" sophomore. So it was just a huge group effort from our team. I'm really proud of Rob Diaz, obviously having 37, carrying our group, but Aiden Fowler, our point guard, battled through sickness. We hadn't practiced on Monday. We really didn't practice yesterday, just did a quick shoot around. And then a senior of ours who hasn't played much this year, Davis Rogers, started and had some really big minutes. So I'm just so proud of this team. To be honest, Randy, I tell this to everybody, this is our least talented group overall. When you talk about, I don't have a guy that has a Division I offer on the table right now, but it's probably been our most resilient together group. And that's saying a lot, having guys like Ian Martinez and DJ Rodman come through the program who had really, really good teams. So I'm just so proud of this group. They have a ton of fight. It's going to be another challenge tonight, but they've been so fun to coach.
Yeah, you got Damian tonight. A quick comment. I know you played with DeMar DeRozan at USC. You played at Capo Valley, then you went to USC. DeRozan, the great local star, who's having an MVP type of year in the NBA. Did you see his greatness back then?
Yeah, no question. DeMar came in, as I always say this, like he came in as a pro before he got to USC. His work ethic, the way he handled his business, he was a pro before he got there. So you saw that coming from a mile away. I think the one thing, the MVP, I would say that would be, I knew he was going to be an all-star. MVP, the year he's had this year has been incredible. The back-to-back game winners, and it's been really fun to watch him. And how fun is it for him to be able to play with Nikola too, another USC teammate, that they're on the same team with the Bulls. So it's been really fun to see.
Last question for you. SC UCLA Saturday night. Obviously, you're a staunch Trojan backer. The Bruins are home at Pauley. The Trojans have controlled them in recent games. Quick prediction.
I'm going to go USC. I know they struggled against Arizona, but hopefully they can bounce back. And I could be wrong on this. Might have to fact check it. I don't know if the Mick Cronin Bruins have yet beaten the Andy Enfield Trojans yet. I think they've gotten them every time. And I know there's been a lot of really good games down to the wire. And that UCLA team is very, very good, but I got to go with the home team.
Well, Keith Wilkinson, thank you for your candor about Ukraine. I know it's a tough situation for all of us. And good luck going forward with your J. Sarah Lions.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Great guy. Just a great guy. I've known Keith now for a couple of years. Unfortunately, his team lost tonight to Damien on the road, 66-56. They led at halftime. But again, he didn't have a lot of bodies left. But I want to address to you, Tark. He likes USC. I know you also cover UCLA. So you're going to be there. Mick Cronin's going to want to beat those Trojans. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Keith is right. Mick Cronin has not beaten USC yet in his career. I'm pretty sure about that. And the last two times, or like two of the three times, they've come down to buzzer beater type shots, and he, has been on the losing end, obviously. So it's gonna be a really, really tough one for UCLA. I actually won't be there Saturday night. We're gonna have the news group's SC beat writer, Adam Grossbard, will cover it for both of us. I'm going to be at Sierra Canyon Harvard Westlake rematch in studios.
All right. That brings us to our next topic. We all know that Harvard Westlake won at Sierra Canyon. This time they're the higher seed in the state tournament, so they get to host the Trailblazers. Amari Bailey is coming to the East Valley. Your thoughts on that one?
I think when I talk to other pundits, I'm talking to other coaches, everyone thinks Sierra Canyon's going to get Harvard Westlake this time, but I don't know. I was at I was at Sierra Canyon's state opener against St. Augustine from San Diego. I believe they won the open division down there, and San Diego had to come up to Sierra Canyon. And, in 2017, when Marvin Bagley was on the Sierra Canyon team, that was a while ago now, St. Augustine came up north, beat Sierra Canyon. So they came up short just last night. I think Sierra Canyon only won by about 6 or 7 points, but I'll be honest, Sierra Canyon didn't look all that great on the rebound there. They had almost a 2-week layoff after losing to Harvard Westlake before they played in the state tournament opener. So, but either way, they get the job done. Amari Bailey led the team in scoring 22 points. Isaiah Elohim looked good. No Bronny James, still having a little hip issue. But I think he's going to play on Saturday, and that would be a good idea for the Trailblazers because they need him against a very good Harvard Westlake team. I think it's a total toss-up. The Harvard Westlake gym is even smaller than the Sierra Canyon gym, so that place is going to be rocking. It's going to be a great atmosphere, another great San Fernando Valley showdown.
And, of course, the other semifinal is Corona Centennial with that long winning streak of 27, playing another rematch against Bishop Montgomery, who they beat by 25. I saw that game. I was there. It was tied after one quarter, and then the Huskies just shellacked them in the second quarter and never looked back. I mean, Corona Centennial is just so together. They're so rhythmic the way they play. I don't know that anybody in the state will beat them. I guess Sierra Canyon has athletes that can go head-to-head with them, but I just don't know if anyone can stop the way the Huskies play because they're so well connected.
Right. I agree with you. Right now, they are the team to beat. It's hard to imagine a team beating them. So absolutely, we'll see what happens in Studio City on Saturday night. If it is Sierra Canyon, the Sierra Canyon team, they're so talented. I think the reason why, and it's not a good thing. It's not a justification, but this Sierra Canyon team is so good. Their biggest struggle all year long is they can't finish games. They think that they're so good. They let teams back in the fourth quarter. They kind of don't finish it out. They kind of think teams are going to roll over to their talent, and it's just not going to happen. So if they can, my point is Sierra Canyon always plays a little better when there's like a history or something on the line or their pride is shot. So they're going to get a rematch with Harvard Westlake. That's personal to them. And then if they get Corona Centennial, that's personal to them too, because Corona Centennial beat them in the Open Division final last year. So with some emotion on the line for the Trailblazers, I don't know, maybe a little chip on their shoulder could carry them back to the CIF state finals in Sacramento. We will see.
Well, we'll talk a lot more basketball again next week. I want to get your thoughts on baseball again next week because we're starting to get into the baseball campaign. I know Orange Lutheran's got a great team. In fact, the whole Trinity League looks very, very strong. I know Sierra Canyon in baseball is very solid, as are a number of other teams in the Valley. Tark, nice talking to you again. Hope to see you next week. You're a great co-host, and we love having you aboard. And I want to also thank our coaches, Keith Wilkinson from J. Sarah. Our hearts out to him. He is obviously thinking about his friends and the people that he played basketball with in Ukraine. And of course, we congratulate Tariq Abdel-Samia, the head coach at Grant, for getting his first city title for the school in Van Nuys, the Grant Lancers. And we thank you for tuning in. We'll be back again next Thursday night, live at 9 o'clock. We'll talk about all the noteworthy things in prep sports in Southern California. I'm Randy Rosenblum for our entire LA 36 crew. We'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.